Sitting in the dimly lit living room, I clutched a photo of my late husband, Elliot. The silence was only broken by the soft ticking of the grandfather clock, a constant reminder of the time that had slipped away since his passing. Across from me, Helena, my mother-in-law, sat knitting quietly. Her presence always brought a comforting sense of stability. The door swung open, shattering the stillness. Raymond, my new husband, strode in with a grin that stretched ear to ear. "Cora, you won't believe what I've found." His voice was laced with excitement. I looked up, my heart heavy. "What is it, Raymond?" "It's a mansion, Cora. A magnificent mansion. Just imagine us living there. It's only $3 million, a steal for a place like that." His eyes sparkled with a fervor that I hadn't seen before. "A mansion?" My voice was a mere whisper, disbelief coloring my tone. "Raymond, how could we possibly afford that?" He leaned in, his smile widening. "We'll use the insurance money from Elliot. It's perfect." The room seemed to spin. That money was all I had left of Elliot. "But that money, it's meant for my future security," I managed to say, gripping the photo tighter. "Cora, darling, it's just money, and what better way to use it than to secure our luxurious future?" Raymond's dismissiveness struck a nerve. Helena stopped knitting, her gaze sharp. "Raymond, that money was meant for Cora's well-being, not for such extravagance." He dismissed her with a wave of his hand. "Helena, you worry too much. It's a good investment. Cora agrees with me, right?" I felt cornered, his expectant eyes pressing down on me. Memories of Elliot, our dreams and love, seemed to be fading away, overshadowed by Raymond's grand plans. "Raymond, do we really need something so extravagant?" My voice shook, betraying my inner turmoil. "Trust me, Cora. This is our future. A new beginning," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. I glanced at the photo in my hands, then at Raymond's eager face, and finally at Helena. Her expression held concern and a hint of disappointment. Doubt crept into my heart, a growing sense that the life I had envisioned with Raymond was slipping through my fingers like grains of sand. I tried to make peace with the decision, but the mansion loomed in my mind like a gilded cage. The following weeks were a blur of Raymond making arrangements. He seemed oblivious to my growing unease and Helena's silent disapproval. One evening, as I was setting the table for dinner, Raymond's daughter, Nora, came into the kitchen. At 17, she carried a rebellious streak that made her hard to connect with. "So we're moving into a mansion, huh?" she said, her tone laced with a sarcasm that I wasn't prepared for. "Yes, it seems so," I replied, keeping my voice neutral. Nora leaned against the counter, eyeing me with a mix of curiosity and disdain. "Must be nice, stepping up in the world thanks to someone else's money." Her words stung, and I struggled to maintain my composure. "Nora, it's not like that. It's complicated." "Sure, whatever you say, Cora," she dismissed, grabbing an apple and leaving the room as abruptly as she had entered. That night, Raymond was unusually quiet at dinner. Helena barely spoke, her disapproval of the situation hanging heavily in the air. The tension was palpable. After dinner, Raymond cornered me in the living room. "Cora, we need to talk about the house. There are some papers that need your signature." I tensed. "Papers? What kind of papers?" "Just some formalities for the purchase. You know, since it's your money that's paying for it," he said casually. My heart raced. "Raymond, I'm not comfortable with this. It's all happening so fast." He frowned, his patience wearing thin. "Cora, we've been over this. It's a great opportunity. Don't be so sentimental about the money." "But it's not just the money, Raymond. It's what it represents," I protested, my voice rising. He stepped closer, his expression hardening. "Cora, you're my wife. It's your duty to support my decisions. We're doing this, and that's final." I recoiled from his words. They felt like a betrayal, a stark reminder of how little he respected me or my feelings. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, feeling trapped in a life that was spiraling out of my control. The day we moved into the mansion was surreal. The grandeur of the place couldn't mask the hollow feeling in my heart. Raymond was like a child, gleaming with pride, while Helena's sadness was palpable, her usual warmth replaced by a cold resignation. I was arranging some books in the living room when Raymond strutted in, his demeanor more arrogant than ever. "Cora, now that we're here, there are going to be some changes," he declared, a smug smile playing on his lips. I paused, a sense of dread washing over me. "What kind of changes?" "Well, for starters, I think it's only fitting that you take care of the house." After all, a mansion needs a proper housekeeper, he said, his eyes gleaming with a cruel amusement. I stared at him, disbelief and anger mingling in my chest. You want me to be the housekeeper? In my own home? He laughed, a cold, heartless sound. Your home? No, Cora, this is my house. You're just living in it. And as for being a housekeeper, well, it's not like you have much else to do. I felt a surge of anger. Raymond, I am your wife, not your servant. His expression turned icy. You're whatever I say you are. And right now, I say you're the housekeeper. You should be grateful I'm even allowing you to stay here. Helena, having overheard the conversation, entered the room, her expression a mixture of fury and disbelief. Raymond, you can't be serious. Treating Cora like this, it's inhumane. He turned to Helena, his eyes cold. And you, Helena, I don't even know why you're still here. You're not my family. Frankly, you're just a burden. The words cut through the air like a knife. I could see the pain in Helena's eyes, the insult too much to bear. We were both prisoners in a gilded cage, our dignity stripped away by a man we once trusted. That night, as I lay in bed, the mansion felt more like a tomb. Raymond's true nature had revealed itself, a monster hiding behind a mask of charm. I realized then that I couldn't live like this, not under his control. A plan began to form in my mind, a way to escape this nightmare. Revenge wasn't just a fleeting thought anymore. It was a necessity. The days that followed were a blur of emotional turmoil. Raymond's tyranny over the house grew each day, and his disdain for both Helena and me became more blatant. It was during these dark days that Helena and I found solace in each other's company, plotting our escape from this gilded prison. One evening, as we sat in the dimly lit kitchen, Helena spoke up, her voice steady but filled with resolve. Cora, we can't live like this any longer. We need to leave, to find our own way. I nodded, feeling a spark of hope amidst the despair. I've been thinking the same, Helena, but where would we go? Raymond has control over everything. Helena reached across the table, taking my hand. The insurance money, Cora, we use it to buy a place of our own, a condo, something modest but ours. We leave Raymond and this mansion behind. The idea was daring, almost reckless, but it ignited a fire within me. But the money, it's tied up in this mansion now, I said, the weight of our situation pressing down on me. Helena shook her head. No, my dear, only a portion of it. There's still enough left. We were careful, remember? We can do this. The plan was simple yet bold. We would secretly purchase a condo, a place where we could start anew, free from Raymond's shadow. The thought of taking back control, of reclaiming my life, was exhilarating. Over the next few weeks, we moved cautiously, meeting with real estate agents and lawyers under the guise of mundane errands. Each step we took was a step closer to freedom. The day we signed the papers for the condo was a day of quiet triumph. Raymond, lost in his own egotistical world, remained oblivious to our plans. The night before we were set to leave, I couldn't sleep. The anticipation of a new beginning, mixed with the fear of Raymond's reaction, kept me awake. I knew the confrontation would be inevitable and likely explosive. As dawn broke, I packed my bags, my hands trembling with a mixture of fear and excitement. Helena was already waiting for me, her bags packed, her face determined. "We can do this, Cora. It's time," she said, her voice a mix of courage and defiance. I nodded, taking a deep breath. "Let's go. Let's take back our lives." We left the mansion quietly, slipping away into the early morning light. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, it was ours to shape. Settling into the condo felt like a breath of fresh air. Helena and I reveled in our newfound freedom, the weight of Raymond's oppression lifting from our shoulders. However, I knew this peace would be short-lived once Raymond discovered our absence. It wasn't long before my phone rang, Raymond's name flashing on the screen. Taking a deep breath, I braced myself and answered. "Where the hell are you?" Raymond's voice was a mix of rage and disbelief. "I've left, Raymond. Helena and I both have." "We're not coming back," I said, my voice steady despite the racing of my heart. "You what? You can't just leave. That house, it's in your name, the bills, everything." His voice was frantic, tinged with panic. "That's no longer my concern. I won't be a part of your twisted game any longer," I replied, feeling a surge of empowerment with each word. "You ungrateful. Do you have any idea what you've done? You'll ruin me." Raymond's voice was rising, his words laced with venom. That was never my intention, Raymond, but I refuse to be your prisoner, your housekeeper. I deserve better, and so does Helena, I said firmly. There was a pause, and I could almost hear the gears turning in Raymond's mind. You'll pay for this, Cora. You think you can just walk away? I'll make sure you regret this. I felt a chill at his words, but my resolve was unshaken. I'm not afraid of you anymore, Raymond. Goodbye. With that, I hung up, cutting off his tirades. In the following days, Raymond's attempts to contact me became more desperate. He left voicemails, each more aggressive than the last, demanding that I return and fix the mess I had left behind. But I was done being his victim. Each message he left only strengthened my resolve. Helena and I started to rebuild our lives, our bond stronger than ever. The news eventually came that Raymond was facing financial ruin. The mansion, with its exorbitant costs, had become his undoing. His social standing crumbled as the truth of his behavior, and our departure became known. I felt a mix of vindication and sadness. Raymond had brought this upon himself, yet I couldn't help but feel a pang of pity. He was a man undone by his own greed and cruelty. But this was his battle to fight, not mine. Helena and I had chosen a different path, one of freedom and dignity. We had escaped the shadow of the mansion, and in its place, we found light. Life in the condo with Helena was serene, a stark contrast to the turmoil we had left behind. Our days were filled with small joys and newfound freedoms. Yet, the shadow of Raymond still lingered in the back of my mind, an uncomfortable reminder of the past. One evening, as Helena and I enjoyed coffee in our cozy living room, my phone rang. Seeing Raymond's name on the screen again made my heart sink. Hello, Raymond, I said, steeling myself for another barrage of insults. Cora, please, you have to help me. Raymond's voice was different this time, tinged with desperation. Help you? Raymond, after everything, why would I ever? I started, but he cut me off. The mansion, it's falling apart. I can't afford the upkeep, the taxes. I'm drowning here. I need you to come back. We can start over, he pleaded. Start over? The audacity of his request left me speechless. The man who had tried to reduce me to a housekeeper now wanted salvation from me. Raymond, I'm not coming back. You made your bed, now lie in it, I said firmly. But Cora, I'm nothing without you. You don't understand the mess I'm in. Please. His voice cracked, a far cry from the domineering man I once knew. Raymond, you chose this path. You chose to treat me and Helena like we were disposable. You can't expect me to fix the consequences of your actions, I replied, my voice unwavering. There was a heavy silence on the line before Raymond spoke again, his voice barely a whisper. I'm sorry, Cora. I never meant for things to go this far. I miss you. His words, laden with regret, might have once moved me, but now they only served as a reminder of the pain he had caused. Goodbye, Raymond, I said, hanging up the phone. Helena, who had been listening, reached over and squeezed my hand. You did the right thing, Cora. We have each other, and that's all we need. As I looked around our modest condo, I realized she was right. We had escaped Raymond's clutches and found something far more valuable: peace, independence, and a bond that no amount of money could buy. Raymond's downfall was of his own making, a result of his greed and cruelty. It was a harsh lesson in karma, one that he would have to learn on his own. Helena and I turned our gaze towards the future, one filled with hope and free from the shadows of the past. We had each other, and that was more than enough.